My last exit wasn't that great. We were acquired by a fraudulent company, so we swing for the fences, and sometimes we hit it out of the park, and other times we swing and miss and strike out.
Change is inevitable. Like every success happens because you changed something, and you it was a fear that was within you.
Motivation only lasts for a short amount of time, but discipline is what carries you forward.
I can't do this on my own, period.
Are you looking at your business in terms of emotion, or are you looking at your business in terms of what's practical?
I still believe that America is the best country in the world. Where can kid of immigrants with no education become a physician?
This is Small Business Celebration, where we're celebrating small businesses for big breakthroughs. Welcome to Small Business Celebration. We've got another fantastic episode this week, and we're going to be talking about building yourself up after a rough buyout. We're going to be talking about building rapport with difficult clients. And of course, we're going to be playing the Visioneer Game. And our guest this week is Scott Garrison, the owner of Planned Exits. Welcome to Small Business Celebration.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
And for Visioneers who don't know who you are, who are you and what is it that you do?
Yeah, great. I'm Scott Garrison. I'm the founder CEO of Planned Exits LLC.
You work from home.
I do.
Where we're meeting at right now is not your house.
It is not.
Where are we?
We are at a friend's company. Okay. So as fate would have it, I just came off a Caribbean cruise with my wife and Joe Roberson and his wife.
All right.
We celebrated our birthdays on the seas of the Caribbean and actually traversed through the Panama Canal, which was quite the experience. But Joe was nice enough to offer up his building. He's a lifelong entrepreneur. So Summit Financial, Premier Realty, Legacy Homes, those are all organizations that he owns that occupy the facility we're at today. So thank you, Joe.
You've learned along the way what not to do.
Well, I guess that's a good way to put it. Yes,
Sure.
I would suggest that I have lots of costly wisdom.
There you go. And did this costly wisdom begin with the first business, which was?
ACN Communications was a company that I co-founded in 1991 with my partner, Jim Bowman.
Why did you exit that business?
That timing, right? So it was a long distance resale company, and that was starting to go away, right? With the advent of cell phones and just the change in the industry, right? Used to be you had to pay an arm and a leg to make long distance phone calls.
Is this back when we had phones that were rotary or push button and just like one phone in the whole house and everybody had to work on, call off the one phone?
Yeah, I think we actually had the push buttons at this point, but some people may have still had the rotary, but yeah, they did hang on the wall.
And making a long distance phone call, what was the definition of long distance at the time?
Anything outside of maybe a 30-mile radius, right?
Wow.
So you had intralata calls that were handled by Pac Bell that were actually more expensive than interstate calls, which often were handled by AT&T.
Wow.
But we came competitive in that environment and actually were able to offer a cost savings. And having been a guy who went to school at San Diego State and had a girlfriend in Bakersfield, my phone bill could sometimes be equivalent to my rent for the month.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made you exit out of that business?
It was just the timing, right? So there was some new technology coming along, and we got acquired by a company called Arrival Communications that utilized DSL technology because the internet was just starting to come around, and people needed bandwidth to access the internet.
And the internet is what led you to your next business.
Yes, I became actually at Arrival Communications. We were reselling Lightspeed Net internet services. And then Rob McCarthy sold that company and started a company called Lightspeed Systems, which was a software development company, primarily network security software for school districts.
Right.
And he recruited me over to become the vice president of sales and marketing, and I became a 10% partner in that company.
And you left that business because?
Because I had a little disagreement on the future direction of that company, and it was just time for me to pursue my passion elsewhere, if you might say.
And that passion became?
Became partners with Jim Damian at Stria,
right?
Again as the VP of sales and marketing and a minority 35% interest owner in that company.
When you left Stria, you decided to branch out into not being a minority partner anymore. But now your new company, you own it hook, line, and sinker, do you not?
Yeah, I mean, at age 60,
Right.
I turned over a new leaf, and I think I've always wanted to prove to myself, Michael, that I could be the visionary and the top dog, for lack of a better term. Because
Right.
in all the other operations, I was, number 2, number 3 guy,
Right.
which wasn't bad, especially working with Jim. He considered me his mentor. I'm 12 years his senior.
Right.
But Jim's a super sharp guy, and he mentored me as much as I mentored him.
It's almost like you and he, personality-wise, were so opposite of each other, you complemented each other.
Yeah, I would suggest that Jim likes the camera more than I do, but
Well, I've been
but
trying
here
to
I
get
am.
you on the show for, what, 2 years now?
Some good arm twisting. Timing is everything, Michael.
It is, it is, it is. And now that you've got planned exits going, you had a real burning mission to build this business for a reason.
Yeah, my last exit wasn't that great, and
Right.
we can get into that. We were acquired by a fraudulent company, so maybe we'll touch base on that later.
Right.
But literally, I had thought about doing planned exits for quite some time.
And what is a planned exit?
A planned exit is not waiting until one of the devastating Ds takes place to actually exit your business. So a lot of people just get caught up in the day-to-day, and they're focused on driving revenue, minimizing expenses, hiring people, dealing with HR issues, and so they don't really give much thought to what they're going to do when it's time to sell their business. And sadly, a lot of people don't do anything until one of the devastating Ds. So divorce, disability, disagreement with a partner, death, right. They typically wait until one of those things happen, and then it becomes a fire sale, or it gets tied up in litigation, or there's just a complete liquidation of the company because there was no plan. My passion is to walk alongside business owners and develop a plan ahead of time, and then help drive the value, looking from a buyer's perspective on how they can maximize their exit. Because sadly, when it comes to business exits, there's no mulligans.
Generally speaking, when you're planning an exit, how far out should a business owner start thinking about how or when they're going to be selling their business or passing their business to their children, or when do they start thinking about all that?
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, and one of the reasons why I feel like the industry needs to be disrupted. Because all of my firsthand experiences, which were 6,
Right.
typically had a very short runway. Right? So
What do you mean?
something, I mean, there wasn't a lot of planning or a lot of education that went into it. It just
okay.
became, okay, well, now we're time to sell.
Right.
Or somebody's given us an offer.
Right.
But we hadn't put in a lot of thought on what that looks like. And I will tell you that it is as much of an emotional experience as it is a financial transaction. So a lot of people have poured 30, 40 years into their company, and it's their entire identity. And they spend 60 hours a week in the business, and their friends are their employees or their family, and they don't have a life outside of that.
That's
So
a shame.
part of what I'm trying to do is proactively have those conversations. And it's like, okay, what should be pulling us into retirement instead of pushing us into retirement? And let's do it at a time where we still have our age and our health and the ability to go see all of God's creation and be able to travel and spend more time with the grandkids and go to their ball games and do things that are far more impactful than running the daily grind.
How early should one start thinking about exiting their business?
Yeah, in my mind, I think it should be 3 to 5 years from the time that you actually want to be done.
Okay.
Because typically a 1 to 2 year planning schedule is healthy and gives you enough time to prepare.
Right.
But a lot of times the new acquirer will want you to sign an employment contract because they don't want the ink to dry on the deal. You walk out and 50% of your clients walk out with the owner. Typically there's a 12, 24, 36-month employment contract with the owner to stay on board and just smoothly transition, the ownership from one person to another.
What is one of the major pitfalls that a business owner gets in danger of doing if they don't start planning 3 to 5 years from when they actually want to retire?
There are a lot of pitfalls. The one that's probably comes to mind the most is just not knowing what to do with themselves post-retirement,
Right.
and mentally preparing themselves to become an employee through that transition phase. So if you've been your own boss for 40 years,
Suddenly taking
it's not
orders
real-
from somebody else is rough. Yeah.
yeah, it's a different world, and most people aren't mentally prepared for that, and typically that's part of the package.
You've mentioned that you've gone from one business to the next, to the next. How did you figure out the timing of which business to go into at what time? And it can be exhausting going from one business to another. How do you keep being willing to do that over and over and over again?
Well, I learned at a very young age that the real money changes hands when there's an acquisition. And I'll plug my friend Mike Saba, who I've known all my life, and ironically, he's sponsoring this show, and he's one of the best human beings I've ever met, and a great realtor. And some people are familiar with the concept of flipping houses. Right? So at a very young age, I thought, well, the way to monetize my entrepreneurial skills is to buy low and sell high when it comes to businesses. So, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. You try to sell at the peak. When your trajectory is like this, is when the multiple and the valuation of your company is at its highest.
Right.
Because you're forecasting continued growth. So it's actually best to sell your company on an upswing rather than a downswing, right? Because then the future projections are headed south instead of north, and that can impact the actual compensation that you get for your company.
Now, if I don't ask this question, I know every Visioneer in the world is going to be sending me a direct message on this. But what's your planned exit from planned exits?
I actually don't plan on exiting.
Okay.
Plan exits. So I want it to be a lifestyle business.
Okay.
My primary motivating factor was to be able to own my own calendar.
Okay.
I mentioned that I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and I want to spend more time with them.
Right.
I want my business to be secondary or fiduciary in my priorities. One of the most difficult businesses to sell is that where it is very dependent on the owner. So truth be told, I will probably just wind down planned exits when I'm ready to fully retire or when the devastating Ds happen, heaven forbid.
I've got a good friend of mine, a Visioneer fan of the show, who recently sold his business. And he's getting hit with the double whammy where half of his customers have left the business he sold and gone elsewhere, which is impacting his contract with the new owners.
Right.
And the other thing, kind of, I think, more devastating, is he's now waking up in the morning going,
what do I do?
Now what?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you need to have a plan, right? To go see the world and go travel, or maybe buy a beach house and start putting your time and effort into that. Spend more time with your wife, take up golf. You know, there are plenty of things that are out there to do. I mean, get involved with philanthropy and your favorite charity.
And the grandkids.
And the grandkids, yeah. I mean, I've got 4 and counting, and they're a joy. And I wish I had more free time to spend with them.
And if you're looking for a brand new home to go with that brand new retirement you have, might I suggest you reach out to Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier agent with Watson Realty, born and raised and never left Bakersfield. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. Visioneer Melanie asked, the buyout of my last business has gone badly, and I'm having a hard time emotionally recovering to start a new business. Have you experienced this? And if so, how did you recover?
Yeah, Melanie, unfortunately, I can totally relate to that. And
Right.
that's a very recent experience. My last exit, number 6, which appeared to be a very favorable one, turned out to be anything but. And the sad reality is we sold our company to an organization called Bitwise Industries out of Fresno. And I had actually known one of the co-founders, Jake Sobral, for a number of years, had invested in that company 3 or 4 years prior as a personal investment, my wife and I, because we love the concept of building technology hubs in underdog cities. and educating people in technology that otherwise may not have that opportunity to have a good paying job. And we loved the concept, and we knew they had a idea to expand to Bakersfield amongst 10 other cities throughout the U.S., and the plan on paper was beautiful. They made an offer to acquire Astria. They had secured tens of millions of dollars of financing from the likes of Citibank and Goldman Sachs and Capware Investments and Motley Fool's investors. So we thought this is about as secure of a deal as you can get. They're going to hire our employees. They're going to give everybody a raise and full benefits. And everything was almost too good to be true. And as it turned out, on Memorial Day of 2023, they sent out an email to all 900 employees and said, we've run into some financial turbulence. All 900 employees are furloughed. Do not report to work tomorrow. More news to follow. And more news did not follow.
Except for what was in the press.
That's correct. I mean, we didn't hear anything internally, with the exception of, don't say anything to anybody, and don't share any confidential information. Basically, don't say anything.
Right.
And everything that we learned, we learned to the media. And I forget the timing, but maybe a week later, the two co-founders, Jake and Irma, were terminated. Then a couple weeks after that, things were popping up all over, where there was a lot of accusations of fraud and some misdealings, and it just turned out to be a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the company, a couple weeks later, filed for dissolution, bankruptcy, and our final paychecks bounced. All of our benefits got shut off immediately. A lot of vendors had not been paid, and it's about the worst case scenario of an exit you can imagine. But to Melanie's point, yes, I endured that. And one thing that I believe in wholeheartedly is there's no wrong way to do the right thing. So my partners, Jim Damian and Rory Banks, and I showed up to the office every day. We own the building, so it was hard for us, for them to tell us not to go there, although they were. And every day, I mean, we took phone calls from clients that were reading the news and like, what do we do? And trying to help them through that. Our employees were emailing us and calling us and asking what to do. We were writing letters of references. We were calling clients and playing connect the dots with employees that had been working on their accounts in an effort to get them hired directly. And, we were prepping boxes and lifting them ourselves to get confidential information back in the hands of the clients that had sent it to our warehouse to be scanned and digitized and uploaded into the cloud. So yeah, it was painful for sure. And even though I wanted to do planned exits, the timing didn't feel right, because it was a disastrous exit, right?
Sure.
That I was a part of. And the enemy kind of told me, okay, you can't do this, your dream is squashed. And I'm like, no, I'm better than that. And we all need to learn to persevere. I even heard Sir Richard Branson at a live in person in New Orleans talk to a group of entrepreneurs and say that the one trait that we have in common, do you know what that is as entrepreneurs? Failure.
Right.
And because by definition, we're risk takers. Right?
We are.
So we swing for the fences, and sometimes we hit it out of the park, and other times we swing and miss and strike out. But
right.
If you're a true entrepreneur, you just persevere through the difficult times and come out the other end still swinging as hard as you ever did before.
And now it's time for the Visioneer game. Now, Visioneers, if you're not familiar with the way the game works, I have a random word generator here on my phone, and I have no idea what words the random word generator is going to create. And the more important thing about this, neither does our guest. And our guest has to somehow take each one of 3 words and somehow tie it into his business. Are you ready?
I guess.
Okay, our first word is password.
Password. That reminds me of a couple jokes
Okay.
that aren't appropriate for this particular segment.
Sure.
Password. Yeah, so for most of my entrepreneurial career,
Right.
I've been involved with technology.
Uh-huh.
And I think we all can relate to the frustrations of trying to remember your password.
Sure, sure.
I mean, now we have, 94 different logins of different apps or systems
Right.
to log into. So,
And somehow saying that your password is 1234 is no longer acceptable.
no,
It's
you
weird.
want to remain secure, but at the same time, it gets challenging when you have multiple passwords floating around.
Sexy kitten 123 gerbil run. Just gets old after a while.
I never use those.
Okay, well done on the first word.
All
Well
right.
done, you. Okay,
Respect.
our second word is, this is one that you have a fair amount of familiarity with. Borrow.
Borrow. I try to subscribe to never spend money that I have not yet earned.
Sure.
But I also have had one startup, and we did have to borrow some money from California Republic Bank, and this
Right.
goes back to like 1991.
Sure,
But
right.
I remember specifically Carol Valentine and Gene Krause approved our business plan and gave us a $40,000 line of credit to start ACN Communications. So that was the first time I think I ever had to borrow money.
$40,000 then would be,
It was significant.
yeah,
I mean,
so
my parents.
would that be about $1 million today? $500,000?
Well, with the current inflation rate,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Well, it was significant.
We won't get
amount
into
of-
politics, all right?
No,
We
no,
made that
no.
promise.
But I was just thinking, the way inflation works and everything else like that when you're
It was
trying
a
to.
significant amount of
Yeah.
money. My parents were kind enough to loan me $5,000 because they believed in me
Yeah.
at the age of 27.
Yeah.
And only a few years later did I figure out that they actually had to take out a loan themselves to loan me $5,000 to start that company. But they got paid back many times over. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, our next word and our final word, he's going, whew, is system.
System. Okay, that's a good one actually. So one of the things that I did at Plan to Exits, I did a lot of research and I invested in what they call the Value Builder System. And that is a program that allows me to do assessments of my clients to find out where they're at and come up with a baseline valuation of their business.
Right.
And also where they score on 8 different value builders that are drivers towards increasing the value of your score. So a big part of what I do is meet with business owners and have them start thinking about the end game. Right? So let's work backwards from the end game of maximizing the value of your exit.
Right.
And what levers can we pull 1, 2, 3 years in advance to maximize the value when it is the right time to exit. So Value Builder System is a program that I use, and one of my initial offerings is $1,000 to get a Value Builder score that gives a 30-page report on what we can do to increase the value.
Congratulations. You got 3 for 3. Well done,
right.
you.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Cheers.
See, it wasn't that hard.
No, not as bad as I thought.
People say that all the time. Oh, I'm dreading the game. Oh, that wasn't so bad. But one of the things about a system is that when the whole STRIA event happened, you mentioned before you had a system in place so that you and Jim owned the property, not the business.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, some great advice that we had early on was to, when you buy real estate, to hold it, typically for liability purposes, to hold it under a different LLC. That's usually recommended when you're selling your company too, that there are different transactions. And you can sell the business. And in fact, the ideal scenario is like we did. We held on to the commercial real estate and adjoining property, and then the acquirer became our tenant. And so they were leasing from us. But when that devastation of the bankruptcy news came out,
Right.
we lost a tenant.
But you were able to replace the tenant, were you not?
We were not. In fact, we decided at that time, with all that we had lost,
Right.
Based off of we literally got paid 14% of the value of Stria. So the big tranche.
But 14% is better than zero.
It's better than a sharp stick in the eye, but
Yeah.
it's also 86% short of
what you
what
wanted,
we were supposed to get.
Right, sure.
Right. But one of the saving graces is that we held the property in the commercial real estate under a different LLC, and we put it up for sale, and the Girl Scouts of America bought our facility. So that helped out a lot. And, when you're talking about tax preparation, the good time to have a net loss or a capital gains loss is when to offset a capital gain.
Right.
So I guess the bad news is we lost a lot of money on the transaction. The good news is we had a significant capital loss to offset the capital gains from the sale of the property. So
Right.
Uncle Sam won't get as much out of the deal as he normally does.
But it also means you're not destitute.
Oh, of course not. No, it's my sixth exit, right? Most
Right.
of them have been far more favorable than the last. And my wife is the superintendent of a local school district. She has a great job. She provides benefits. In fact, we jokingly talk about she's the bond of the
Right.
family, and I'm the stock, right? So I'm the riverboat gambler that just goes for it.
Goes for gold.
That's right.
In the last segment, we talked about that you're on business number 6. And it's one thing to exit out of your first business, but it's the second and third you start getting, there's so many different opportunities out there. And you start getting, it's like a cat trying to find out which toy to play with next. How do you pick which opportunity to go for, which ones to say, not right now, and how do you pick which ones to do?
Well, like most entrepreneurs, I've not always made super intelligent picks.
Right.
Hindsight. I mean, one of those exits, sadly, was the Bakersfield Blitz Arena football team.
I enjoyed those games. Those were
I
fun.
did too, but I did not enjoy them as much as an owner/donor
Okay,
of
sure.
Bakersfield Blitz. So yeah, it was not my wisest financial investment. And truly, I mean, that was something that I did from the heart instead of from the head. Right? I mean, I
sure.
enjoy football, and the team was going to leave town, and myself and a couple other people invested some money to keep them around for an extra 2 years.
But at the same time, you did invest in Lightspeed,
Yeah,
and,
no,
and it's still around.
Yeah, no, there's been a couple of very good, very profitable exits that I've had, and very ongoing sustainable businesses.
But how did you pick which ones? Yeah.
A lot of them picked me.
Okay.
They reached out and said, hey, we have a need for somebody that's a professional in fast growth businesses. I've been fortunate enough to be on a part of a company that's made the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the United States, 9 different years.
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm in alignment with the concept, and I can see the vision of the founder and just know that it's a good idea. I try to weigh that out ahead of time.
You've got a business owner. They're ready to exit their existing business. What advice do you have for them to seek out the next?
The next business or the next owner?
Yes. Yes, both, yeah.
Interesting. So we talked a little bit off record about newer people that are wanting to become entrepreneurs but don't know exactly how to make that happen.
Right.
I would suggest that you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? So I was born in 1964. I just turned 60. I'm the final year of the baby boomer generation.
Right.
We are retiring at the rate of 10,000 baby boomers per day.
Right.
It's estimated that 25% of the baby boomers own businesses. Well, they're ready to retire.
Right.
So rather than start from scratch with your own idea that you might not even have concocted in your head and that certainly hasn't been proven out, you might want to look at an existing business that you can acquire that's already generating revenue and already profitable. And there are different means, whether it's an SBA loan or conventional funding or private equity funding or
Right.
angel investing, that can help you buy an existing successful business.
And that brings us to our next Visioneer question, which is brought to you by Mike Saba. Selling homes in Bakersfield since 1992. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. Visioneer Brian asks, some people tell me I have a hard personality. How do you develop rapport with a client so that you can tell them the hard news they need to hear without turning them off?
Can I plug Mike Saba again?
Sure. He's going to hate that. Absolutely hate that.
It's super ironic, right? So his wife, Dana, was one of my best friends in high school. We graduated from North High School in 1982, and she's been a dear lifetime friend. And ironically, to show you what a little big town Bakersfield is, Dana works for my wife.
Okay.
Well, with my wife is a better way to put that at Fruitville School District. So plug for everybody there.
Right.
Yeah, you'll see on my business card, one of the bullet points is straight shooter. Right? So before I engage with a business owner, it's like, look, if we're going to get anywhere and we're going to have measurable outcomes and this is going to be a successful engagement, you have to give me permission to call your baby ugly, if in fact it is. And you know, entrepreneurs, I mean, that's their blood, sweat, and tears that goes into their company, right? So it's felt probably as closely as a baby or a grandchild in their eyes. But I have to be able to give you the hard truth. If you don't have any recurring revenue, or if the company's 100% dependent on your efforts on the day-to-day business, you don't have a lot of transferable value. So you don't have great value for a prospective acquirer. But the good news in all that, Michael, is that I can coach these business owners into spending less time at their business and more time on vacation and doing fun things, and actually increase the value of the company.
All because you've developed that rapport by telling them straight from the outset that I'm just going to tell you like it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for somebody to sugarcoat it and tell you what you want to hear, I'm probably going to refer you to a different advisor. So I can relate to Brian. I mean, be true to yourself, be who you are, and you know, if there's a good fit, then that business dealing will happen. If it's not, then they're better off using somebody else.
It's no secret that a lot of business owners are struggling right now, and for a whole variety of reasons. And like you mentioned before, being a business owner means to expect failure.
Right.
What do you say to the business owner who's having a rough time right now?
I say keep the faith, right? I mean, life has taught me that there's a lot of different seasons in life, both professionally and personally, and we're never losing. Right? We're either winning or learning. Right. And I think some of my greatest life lessons came through my most devastating and turbulent times in life. And truly, I think it just makes you stronger and it makes you wiser. Jim Damien, my partner at Stria, right? Most people with the way that thing ended would think that we would probably be at odds and not friends. He is one of my best friends, and we're probably closer today, having survived that trial together, because it's real easy to be a leader in good times. Right. When you're facing a lot of adversity and a lot of stress, and you can plow through that with a brave face and soldier on and continue just to do the right thing every day, I mean, that's when you see real character. So I'd stick with it. I mean, we have this thing called entrepreneurial terror. Right, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're not sure how you're going to make payroll on Friday. Right, it's natural, and you know, it typically takes a good 2 to 3 years to hit profitability on any startup. So don't beat yourself up. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just get up and smile, have a positive attitude, be in the right mindset, and we're all one conversation away from the next big opportunity. So just keep banging the phones, scheduling the lunches, the cups of coffee, and keep talking to prospective clients. Talk to your existing clients. Well, allow them to tell you where they find value in your services or products, and allow them to tell you where you have room for improvement. And don't be a know-it-all, right? I mean, a lot of times we're A-type personalities and we think we got it all figured out and my way or the highway. I would encourage you not to be that way. Be flexible. The only thing that's constant in business is change, and you need to be able to be flexible.
Scott, this has been a real treat. Thank you for joining us here on Small Business Celebration.
Thank you for having me.
If Visioneers want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Well, I have my own website, plannedexits.com, and there's an opportunity to schedule time with me on Calendly, so you can schedule a free consultation.
Right.
We can talk about being a prospective client or anything that you want to talk about. If you just need some encouragement as an entrepreneur, happy to spend some time with you. My goal in life is to positively impact at least one life every day. And very active on social media. So you can find me Scott Garrison on Facebook, Scott Garrison on LinkedIn. I have business pages. They're new. They don't have a lot of content, so
Sure.
I'm not super proud of them, but I am Planned Exits on both Facebook and LinkedIn.
And if you enjoy Small Business Celebration, go ahead and like, subscribe, notify, and leave a comment. Say something nice about our guests. We'll let them know all about it. And I'll be right back with my final thought. Travel. You can go anywhere in the world. You could go to Liberia? No. You could also go to Estonia. Maybe. But you know what you can also do anywhere in the world? You can read our blog. Yes, simply go to smallbusinesscelebration.com/blog. You learn all the things that you've ever wanted to learn about our past guests and get more information to help you grow your business. Simply go to smallbusinesscelebration.com/blog today. The big head of lettuce. Not that long ago, I witnessed the real-life reenactment of Aesop's classic fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. Yes, they had a drag strip set up with 2 lanes, and there were foam on each side of each lane for each of the contestants. And at one end and the other were handlers for each, the rabbit and for the tortoise. And at the finish line, each of them had a yummy, delicious treat waiting for them. And at the appointed time, the go was made, and both contestants launched themselves down the drag race in a fury. Well, a fury as much as a rabbit and a tortoise can go. And the rabbit bounded and bounded down the raceway towards its lofty goal of that yummy, delicious treat. And the crowd erupted with shouts of joy and praise because they knew the rabbit was going to win. But the rabbit wasn't ready for this kind of sudden loud noise. It suddenly froze. And it looked around bewildered. And when those shouts of joy turned to jeers of angst, like, "Why aren't you finishing? Go, rabbit, go!" The rabbit huddled and curled itself up against the foam wall and did everything it could do to try to hide away from the fear of the sound and the noise, to the point that its handler at the finish line had to come down the raceway, gently pick up the rabbit, cuddle it softly, and whisper soft words of encouragement into the rabbit's ear as it was taken away from the race. Meanwhile, the tortoise was happily eating a yummy, delicious head of juicy lettuce. Now, what I took away from this race wasn't the classic retelling of Aesop's fable that, yes, indeed, the tortoise had once again won the race. No, it was the reaction of the rabbit. You see, how many times have you or I have a goal in mind, something that we want to accomplish, and we start the race off, we go charging down towards that goal, only to be suddenly surprised by all the loud cheers of applause that we're going towards the goal, and we hear all the words of motivation and encouragement that, yes, you can do this, and people in real life are telling this, and suddenly we stop because we're afraid, we're surprised that, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. And then when those same people go through and they start shouting at us because we're not moving, we're not accomplishing, how come you're not successful yet? All we want to do is hide away from these very same people, hoping that somebody will come and rescue us and take us away from this onslaught of noise and discouragement. When we could have actually been more like the tortoise, where if we had just tune it out and just keep plodding along, marching along, we instead would be eating a nice, big, juicy head of lettuce. I hope you enjoyed our conversation this week with Scott Garrison, the owner of Planned Exits, and I hope you learned something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business. And we'll see you here again next week when we celebrate another small business making a big breakthrough. Why did the CEO get arrested when the brownie fell on his calculator?
No clue.
He got arrested because they found out he was fudging the numbers.
You can get in trouble for that. That might tie into my story.
And why did the small business owner quit building sailboats in his attic?
I give up.
Because sales were going through the roof. But I know, these are all horrible.
I thought they were pretty good, actually.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll give them to you after the show.
I'll
You can use them. Shall we start?
Sure.
Okay. Welcome to